Today's recipe calls for yellow squash. I'm going to show you how to make a summer-inspired pasta dish. It's really easy to slap together and it's light and flavorful. So with that said, let's get started.
The first thing we need to do for this tasty summer dish is prep our veggies. We'll be using 2 medium-sized yellow squash and 2 medium-sized zucchini. Cut the tops and bottoms off each veg. From there, cut the zook and squash in the middle, making 2 cylinder sections. After that has been accomplished, cut those halves into 2 equal halves. This way we end up with half moon sections for each veg. Now that we've made it to this point, lay the veg flat side down on your cutting board. This way it doesn't roll around on you when we cut it. From here, we need to cut things into roughly 1/8 inch half moon pieces. Things do not need to be exact. Just do your best to keep things as close to the same size as possible. This thickness will give us an end product that will hold up during the cooking process, since they are basically made of just water. It will also give us a veg that will still have some crunch factor to it after it's been cooked. I believe the best, easiest, and fastest way to cut them is by using the tip of your chef's knife. If any pieces stick to the blade, it's a good opportunity to use that piece as a gauge for the next cut. This will help give you even/equal pieces, ensuring we achieve the best cook. When you've made the half mooner pieces, toss them into a large holding device for later. Enough about that, let's move on to prepping the next item. Snag yourself 1 medium-sized yellow onion. Cut the top off, which is the opposite end of the hairy root end. Then cut the onion into 2 equal sections. We'll only be using half, so save the other half for another recipe. After you've decided what half you like better, peel all the paper skin off, then cut the root end off as well. Next, cut the thing that makes people cry in half once again. Make a horizontal cut from side to side to split it in half. Give it a quarter turn so the top or bottom is facing you. Then cut the onion into small sections. We're shooting for the same thickness as before with the zook and squash, which is that 1/8 inch sections. Now that you've gotten your cry in for the day, toss the cut onion into a holding device and set it aside. Snag yourself 5 to 6 medium large sized garlic cloves. Cut both ends off each piece, then give them a very light smash with the broad flat side of your blade. After they've been lightly crushed, peel all the paper skins off each piece. Thinly slice all of the garlic cloves into teeny tiny garlic chips. Watch for your little fingies. We want to keep the tips of them. Once you have that cut, we're finally done with all of the cutting. Now comes the hardest part, which is figuring out what your favorite pasta to use is going to be. I'm going with rigatoni today. I like the shape and the eating experience it provides. You'll need 16 ounces or 454 grams worth of your favorite noodle for this recipe. Now that you've spent way too long contemplating and phoning a friend to make your final decision on what pasta to use, collect a large pot to fill it with the clear liquid known as water. Follow the directions on the box for how much water to use, or fill it about 3/4 of the way full. Use warm water. It'll help speed up the process of bringing it to a boil by just a few seconds. Season the water with a few good fat-sized pinches of coarse ground kosher salt. We do this because this is the only time the pasta on its own will be able to be seasoned. Now that you have salty water, take the pot and toss it over a heating source. Place a lid atop of the pot that has a tight, snug fit. Crank the heat to high. Allow the water to come up to a ripping or rolling boil. We put the lid on. This way it'll help trap in the heat and steam, which will help speed up the process of making the water come to a boil a lot faster. Dump your nudes into the boiling pot of water. Do your best not to be splashed by the spicy hot water. After all the noodles are in the pot, immediately give them a stir with a spoon. This is imperative to do because the noodles will become rehydrated once they hit the water, causing them to stick together. Stirring them will break them apart because nobody wants a giant una noodle. Cook the pasta based on the instructions that are on the box. It should tell you how long to cook them for the perfect al dente texture. If it does not tell you, then cook them a few minutes shorter than the full time. During the cooking process, occasionally give the pot a stir around. This will prevent the nudes from sticking to one another. It'll also prevent them from sticking to the bottom of the pot. After the buzzer rings, I suggest pulling a single noodle out of the water and giving it the texture test. This is the best way to tell if the the pasta is done cooking. We are shooting for the perfect al dente texture. So when you eat it, you're looking for a texture of pasta that is tender, meaning it's soft, but also has a very small amount of firmness as well. When eaten, it'll easily give under pressure. It's almost all the way cooked through, but not completely cooked all the way, where it would be soggy and waterlogged. Now that you've managed not to burn your face hole, using the texture test, strain and drain the pasta water. If you would like, you can conserve a little of the pasta water for later. I don't think we need it, so I didn't save any. Anyways, place the empty pot back over your heating element. Crank the heat down to a medium level of hotness. Add 1 to 2 teaspoons of a high heat neutral oil to the pot. Should be enough to coat the bottom. Allow it to become ripping hot. Once there, dump in the zucchini and squash. Season it with a few pinches of coarse ground kosher salt. Sauté the veg for 5 to 7 minutes, or until it becomes tender in texture, or until you see a few pieces that have become translucent. Do not allow all of your veg to become translucent. If you do, that means you've cooked it too long. At that point, they will release all the water they hold, causing things to become soggy. Of course, throughout the cooking process, give the pot of goods a stir to ensure we achieve an even cook. After they've been cooked, clear them out of the pan. Toss them back into the same holding device they were in before. Once the pot is empty, add in the same amount of oil as we did earlier. Toss the sliced onion in next. Give it a quick stir to coat everything in the oil, then make it hail a few pinches of coarse ground kosher salt. It's imperative to season as you go. This way we end up with the best tasting end product possible. Sauté the onion for 10 to 12 minutes or until they become a light golden brown color. When you've reached this point, toss in the vampire repellent, also known as the garlic. Sauté the garlic for about 30 seconds or until it becomes super fragrant in smell. After the air becomes delicious smelling, add back the sautéed squash and zucchini mix. Give the pot a gentle mix so we end up with a giant mess of vegetables. When you're satisfied with the mix-up, add the drained noodles back in. Once again, mix all the ingredients into one. The sauce is going to be super easy for this recipe. All we're going to use is some oil. It's like buttered noodles, but just with oil instead. Ensure you use a good quality oil for this. You want something that has a neutral taste to it, that again is good quality. I used avocado oil. You can use olive oil or extra virgin olive oil, or any oil that is considered a healthy fat. Start by adding in 1 tablespoon of oil, then giving it a mix in. If you saved any pasta water, now would be the time to add it in. Only add a teaspoon or 2 in at a time. Mix it with the oil so it emulsifies. If you're like me and didn't save any, skip that step. Anyways, when you're mixing things, ensure you gently do this task and do not overmix the pot of goods. Doing so will crush the veggies, causing them to release more water, ruining the end product. It'll also cause the cooked pasta to break down, making it gummy in texture, throwing off the perfect al dente we worked so hard for. Give things a taste test and adjust the seasoning as needed with some coarse ground kosher salt. After you've tasted and adjusted things, now is a good opportunity to decide if you want to add more oil or not. I added another tablespoon of oil for a total of 2 tablespoons of avocado oil. Use more or less as you desire. For me, this is the perfect amount of oil. It's enough to coat all the pasta, giving it a rich, fatty flavor without being too greasy and oily in the end. Understand the cooked pasta is going to soak up a little of the oil, but not all of it. So add little bits of oil in at a time until you achieve what you like. Do not go overboard with the liquid fat. It'll ruin things. Also, side note, this is one of my favorite ways to eat pasta because it's easy to make and it's simple but delicious. If you couldn't already tell, this makes a huge pot of food. You can easily cut this recipe in half to suit your needs. When you've accomplished the perfect balance of food to oil, take the pot of goods off the heat source. The last thing we need to do is add the zest of 1 whole medium-sized lemon. Lemon zest will bring that summer feel to the dish, but most of all, it'll bring a bright acidic flavor profile to help cut through the richness of the fat and pasta. A friendly reminder, always wash/clean any fruit that you plan on zesting. Avoid zesting any of the white part on the citrus fruit. It's known as the pith and it's bitter in taste. If using a microplane, run your fingy down the backside to knock loose any of the zest that may be stuck. Pro tip, rinse your zesting tool right after you use it. It'll make it much easier to clean later because the zest won't be dried and stuck on. After the yellow confetti has been added, give it a mix in and another taste test. Adjust the seasoning as needed with more coarse ground kosher salt. When you're happy with your creation, snag your favorite eating saucer. For the most aesthetically pleasing look, place the pasta offset from the center, then stack the goods on top of one another to make a tiny mountain of carbs. Toss a few veg pieces on the top, then if you wish, sprinkle it with some oregano and crushed red pepper flakes. You can skip that nonsense and sprinkle it with some Parmesan cheese. I didn't have any, and I just want to make it seem like I know what I'm doing, so I added the other stuff. Anyways, add some protein to the dish, like grilled chicken or even some sauteed shrimp would be good, or leave it as is. Whatever you decide to do, just enjoy.
Alright, now that our pasta is done, let's give it the old taste-a-roo. So looking at it, it came out super aesthetically pleasing, looks nice and hearty and healthy because of all those veggies. And it has a nice pop of color from our green zouk, the yellow squash, and that white from the garlic and onion as well. And if you squint hard enough, you might be able to see some lemon zest. I really can't because apparently my eyesight is terrible. The pasta itself looks perfectly cooked, looks like it's going to be nice and al dente. That sprinkle of oregano and red pepper flake we threw on top makes it look extra bougie. Makes you just want to dig into it and really try it and taste it and not talk about it, so that's what I'm going to do. Try to get a perfect bite, a little bit of everything. This stuff came out super dang bomb. The zucchini and squash bring that fresh vegetable taste and makes you feel kind of healthy on the inside since they're fresh veggies. Then the onion and garlic are a match made in heaven and build that good base of flavor as well. The pasta itself is also a little bit rich in flavor. And then that oil that we added to coat our pasta brings a ton of fat to the table, but we have that pop of freshness and that acid from the lemon zest to help cut through the richness of the pasta and the oil itself. Then that stuff that we sprinkled on top brings some good flavor as well. Texture wise, the vegetables are nice and crunchy and the pasta itself is nice and al dente. Overall, this thing is super dang good. This summer pasta dish is pretty simple to slap together, and you can pretty much make it any which way that you would like. Maybe you want to add some more vegetables, so you throw a couple handfuls of spinach, or you make it extra bougie and use like a garlic infused oil or a chili infused oil to toss the pasta in, which sounds super tasty. So hopefully you enjoyed today's video. Thanks for watching, and I'm gonna go crush a ton more of this pasta because I love pasta and I love this dish. So we'll see you on the next one. Let's get tasty room. I don't know. Fresh veggie taste. It brings that the oil. Pasta dish is